meeting, unofficial.
Yep.
I'm Steve Langley, Chair.
Mark Lemay, Board of Selectmen Representative.
Andrew Charrette.
And Derek Horn.
We're going to start with approving the minutes of the last meeting.
We can put those off till next
Oh,
month.
I guess, yeah, we can't really do any of that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll just let you go ahead.
Again, most of the stuff is just kind of a status update. Glen Lake waterfront ordinance, I've forwarded to the police chief a proposed change on that would, and to see his feedback on changing 6 of the 18 spaces from Goffstown resident parking only to basically open to everyone, and haven't had a chance to speak with him on that yet. I didn't get that out as early as I'd like, so he hasn't had much time to review that. But Board of Selectmen will be reviewing their policies. They normally do that at the beginning after the election, so we still have time to, and I'm hoping to do that the first couple weeks of April if the police chief doesn't have any major objections, which would be in time for what normally kicks in on May 15th.
I know if we follow the schedule on the board next door, we've got an area for goals, set up goals and, plans for the year, so I'm sure that'll probably be one of the things that we'll be discussing at some point in time, but it's on the burner.
Yep. Do you mean in addition to this?
Well, this
Change
Glen
the
Lake-
ordinances we
yeah,
should be discussing.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question on that?
Certainly.
What about the Parks and Recs? Are we going to get buy-in from them also? Submit it to them ahead of time?
Yeah, I didn't think about it, but yeah, I can
I
submit
think
it
the
to
more consensus we
Parks and Rec,
have
too.
when we go, that's what I sensed last time we were there, is they were like, well, who else have you talked to? What's your plan?
Okay.
I don't know who else we could run it by. Is there any other committee that we should talk to just get buy-in before we...
I know Selectman Devan's real concern was with police and enforcement, and I wanted to be able to answer that concern for him. Parks and Recs is a good idea, and then the only other one is I can bring it to the Conservation Commission, see if they have any, because a lot of the changes were related to the trash there and the contamination, so I can take it to them and see if they have any concerns as well.
I just think the more people we run it by, we can craft something that will work for everybody.
I know one of the big things that we talked about when we had our discussion, as Derek just mentioned, was trash. If we, bring in more people, the trash is going to be, accumulated. Do we force them to bring their trash home with them? Do we supply bigger trash containers? And the other thing is the number of people that will be swimming in the lake. What kind of effects will that have as far as the bacteria? Will the bacteria count go up quicker, faster?
Well, it really shouldn't change.
No, this is the same amount of parking.
Same amount of
parking, but,
So-
just the crowd could be different, bigger, and
Who handles the trash? Is that Parks?
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec.
So we should talk to them, definitely.
Can I ask a question on that? Derek, did you look into a ticketing kiosk?
Yeah, we talked about that last month, and most of those, we felt the cost was prohibitive. There were,
What are you talking about?
I forget the
It's like
exact.
$5,000.
$4,000, and we currently don't have any parking metering in Goffstown, so it would be a new job duty for somebody, so.
Yeah, I thought that was more of the issue, is who would
Who would
collect
collect and track and.
But now that wouldn't be something that Parks and Recs would want to do. I mean, who's charged with maintaining that space? Is it Parks and Recs?
Parks and Rec, they empty the trash and they clean it up.
Because again, I'll throw out, if it's $5,000, you may be able to get a grant or submit to some committee to some group to help finance that.
And Derek, wasn't that only just cost of the piece of equipment?
Yeah, not necessarily.
The installation and...
Yeah. No, that included
That was an
installation, yeah. And maybe we can look at that long term. I think in the immediate future, just a start would be to get a portion of the spots designated as open to everybody, just like the boat parking is.
Do you see an issue with that, Andrew?
No. No.
That...
But if there was a long-term solution that could make money for the town and regulate it that way, it sounds like there'd be an opportunity. and give everybody access, but no, I don't have an issue.
Okay.
The next item is just a recap. Access Greater Manchester had their annual meeting in January. The first item they did was, for a long time, this was Metro Center, New Hampshire. And at the annual meeting in 2012, we talked about, we had a kind of brainstorming session, and one of the things was a rebranding of the group. And during 2012, they had a marketing consultant work with them from Bedford Ltd. And came up with Access Greater Manchester, and they did a kind of an unveiling. And you'll see here is basically the annual report, new logo, and also highlighted there the items that kind of got accomplished this year. Some white papers to help communities promote economic development. And then on the reverse is kind of the action plan for 2013 moving forward. Also at that meeting, there was Jack Munn from Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission gave a presentation on Ready, Set, Go New Hampshire, which is the Certified Sites program for Access Greater Manchester. Again, I think I've explained that in the past, but that is where sites can be pre-certified for different levels of readiness for development, whether it's at the conceptual level with the planning board or approved site plan ready to go, which will help with marketing. And that we have a tentative date that's going to be presented to the Goffstown Planning Board as an idea, and also to ask the planning board to amend their development regs that would allow this. And I have a date of April 11th at 7 p.m. Again, it's a tentative date, but their first meeting in March is kind of organizational.
So that's April 11th through the planning board.
Through the planning board, because they would need to amend their development regulations. And they would need to, right now, an approved site plan is approved for 1 year. The idea of certified sites is it gives you a longer approval process for up to 5 years. So we go to them, present the idea, answer any concerns they may have, and Jack Munn will be doing that, and I believe Will Stewart from the Chamber of Commerce and Access Greater Manchester as well. Once I get a set date and time, I'll let you know on that and send you the presentation ahead of time.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Would that be something that we as the Economic Development Council would want to review and make a recommendation, and
I think
submit a formal letter?
Yeah, I think prior to that meeting, at the April meeting.
So our April meeting will be important to attend that?
Do that, yeah, and that will be on the 3rd.
The 3rd, so April 3rd. Okay. And then we would submit a letter of support.
Letter of support.
Can you get Jack here on the 3rd?
I can ask
Yeah,
Jack.
I mean, that's what I think, like some type of presentation so we understand it, and then.
Absolutely. The next one, there was a keynote address by Dr. Barry Bluestone. He is from Northeastern University, their Dukakis Center for Urban and Regional Policy. I gave a little bit overview, began the presentation just a history of looking at economic conditions in New Hampshire, how they've changed over the last 25 years in different sectors. And then he had some ideas for how to promote economic development. And one of the big ones that he had was that Northeastern has an economic development self-assessment tool. And I'm just kind of giving you like a one-page, what it is, how they developed it, what the framework is, the use of the results and cost. They worked with realtors and and to look at why do companies choose one municipality over another, because, you know, one of the central tenets of his presentation was, as good as the regional effort is, developers do choose one municipality over another municipality. And it's not necessarily a region. And, you know, which location factors are most important and which location factors don't matter as much. And if you look at the framework, it kind of broken it down. If we were to participate and do something like this, you have 200 to 250 questions that are in 10 different categories. And then once it's completed, the staff basically compares that against all the other municipalities that have done it nationwide to see how you perform against others, and it gives you, you know, basically focuses on what you can control, what's important to change based on the feedback they got from the realtors and developers, and it can help drive how you're doing an economic development strategy, and also can integrate into the master plan, which right now our planner has master plan in CIP for 2014. So kind of feel like if we were to participate and use this tool over the next 6 months, year, that could drive, you know, be one of the first things that gets rolled into the master plan, and really develop an economic development strategy.
So we would need to budget that $5,000 cost.
EDC has $4,000 budgeted. Again, we have to wait till next week to see how the budget, you know, passes and that. But EDC does have funds budgeted. Last couple of years, when we were focusing on 79E and some other things, we did not use those funds. But I think
So those funds actually roll over?
they go back into the fund balance, unassigned fund balance.
I see. Good.
So you know, previous years those funds aren't available, but we've got 4,000 available now, and I think if we talked and got selectmen approval, we could find additional funds to fund that if it's something that this group wants to.
Yeah, I certainly think it's worthwhile. You know, after hearing the presentation, it seems like it's a good idea.
Can I ask a question? Is this type of assessment included in the Bernardville study already? You know, for the grant that we got already? Or does that planner already doing that? But it's kind of looking at where businesses go and why, right?
Yes. I don't know that it would. You might have some similar information in there. They're really looking more at it from a design perspective, because the idea is to get to the smart code, where it's really design focused, and it may have some of that similar information, but it won't necessarily weigh it using some of the factors they've used here, and it'd only be for Bernardville and not townwide. So. I don't know if everyone's had an opportunity. I did provide the presentation, and the presentation is on YouTube through Manchester Community Television, and I can resend that link to you. But I think it's kind of a good opportunity, something we could be working on over the next 6 to 8 months, and then when the master plan, you've got the results from it, and it could help drive.
I think it'd be a good idea to watch the presentation if you have the opportunity. It was pretty interesting and informative.
I'll send out the link again, and we can discuss and hopefully make a little bit more discussion at next month, and maybe make a vote to go to the selectmen and kind of recommend it. But I'll send that link out again. It was probably about a half-hour presentation, so it's not. It was real informative, and I think it'd be get some good insight out of it. But that was pretty much it for Access Greater Manchester. The next meeting is on Tuesday of next week from 3 to 5. And thereafter, it's going to be on the second Tuesday every other month. So March, then the next one won't be in April, it'll be in May, second Tuesday, 3 to 5. So at this meeting, there's going to be a presentation on the Pettingill Road off in Londonderry, and the potential impact there, and development there right by the airport. So it should be interesting. The next item is the Pinardville Sustainable Community Plan and Smart Code Project. The advisory committee met in January and had a initial discussion with the consultant and did some brainstorming on marketing and some of the issues that are, of a concern to the people. Our next meeting is Wednesday, the 13th, from 7 to 9 at St. Anselm College. All that information's on the municipal website. On Monday night, we got our approval for a Facebook page through the Board of Selectmen. We are finalizing our marketing material. With the consultant, they've given us quite a few drafts, and we're just finishing that up hopefully tomorrow, so we can get that to print for availability at town meeting, and to pass that out and start going out through the different media channels to get that to people in town and in Pinardville specifically. And then the planning charrette right now is scheduled for May 3rd through 7th, and we have 2 spots that we've narrowed it down to pretty much. For the consultant's going to be here that entire time from the 3rd to the 7th, and they're going to be in a storefront. So you may not be able to make the pin-up. You may not be able to make the opening presentation. You may not be able, but you can still stop in, talk to the consultant, talk to staff that's there, give feedback, that kind of thing.
Are the 2 places that they'll be at public information yet, or are we still?
We're still working with the property owners to try and nail those down. They will be in Pinardville, and we're just trying to finalize that, plan that up.
Derek, are those final dates?
They look to be final dates, yes. And and that's over a weekend, so I think that's a Friday to a Tuesday. The consultants. So it's going to be a weekend-long event. There'll be a couple different meetings, some with staff, some with property owners and developers in the area to see what their concerns are. It's going to be neat because the last time we did the master plan for the town, it was kind of a year-long process. There was multiple meetings and kind of tweak it here, where this is kind of just 5 days, just go at it hard and see what we come up with. So it's pretty exciting. And Mark, maybe you can just kind of build on what the first advisory committee. I thought we had some good feedback.
We trying to think, there was almost 14, 15 members of the board. Some businesses, most residents, people of the town of Goffstown. We talked about, one of the big things was the traffic on Mast Road. One of the members of the board said that basically when she had moved into town, there was 2 traffic lights in the Pinardville section of town. Now there are a total of 6 traffic lights in the Pinardville section of town, with more to come depending on what happens for business. We're a unique town. We kind of have a one-way in, a one-way out that we have to deal with on Mast Road. Everybody kind of shuffles down Mast Road in the morning. Everybody shuffles back up Mast Road in the evening to come home. Mast Road, that Mast Road corridor seems to be the heaviest one for traffic, as we were talking about. They were talking about the businesses themselves, what they would look for, more commercial, where the land is available. what land is available and what could be done, to entice and bring the businesses to Pinardville. There was quite a bit of open discussion from the board. I didn't bring my notes, but everybody that was there is positive, is very positive. They're there for the town of Goffstown without a doubt. Bill Charrette is the chairman of the board, and Rosemary is the vice chair of the board. We had a little bit of a homework to do to go out and ask the people of the Pinardville section, the Goffstown section of that Mass Road we had to get names, addresses, email addresses. We're going to build a database, a data bank, so that we can keep them involved as well, invite them to the meetings. Our meetings are scheduled. For the first meeting, we had probably 10 or 12 people from the public sector that were there as well that came, and we had dialogue with them. They had dialogue with us back and forth. I'm just trying to think what else off the top of my head. The meeting lasted 2 hours. It was a good productive meeting, and the thing I like about it is we've set the 2 hour limit so that we don't drag the meetings on and the meetings just don't become boring or unattentive. And like I say, I'm looking forward to the next meeting to see how it goes for feedback and see what everybody has brought back for feedback. And I don't know, maybe you can expand. Like I said, I left my notes home.
No, I think that pretty much summarized it. I thought it was pretty positive.
Yep.
Derek, are there minutes to that meeting?
There are.
Available?
They're available online. We do have a Pinardville ad hoc committee page where the charter's up there.
Yep.
The membership is listed up there.
Yep.
And the minutes are available. So that continues to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
Next item is the I-293 Exit 67 planning study. We've got word that the final public hearing is scheduled. It doesn't have a firm date, but it's going to be in May. And as soon as I get that date, I will send it out to you. I know that Goffstown has had pretty good representation there in the past, but we still want to get out to the final public hearing to present. The last one in December, they presented their different alternatives that the engineer's been looking at, and then so I'll let you know when that is, because the alternatives that would affect Goffstown, there were 3 different alternatives that they presented for access to East Dunbarton Road, Front Street, and potentially Goffstown Back Road.
Yep.
Tony?
Yeah, I'm a member of that TAC, and I was at that last meeting where it's now moving toward the stage where there's going to be a balancing of what are the good alternatives, what are the best alternatives. And we've been working hard, those of us from Goffstown that are involved, in trying to convince DOT and the engineers involved that a connection to Goffstown Back Road is critical. From Goffstown's perspective, it's critical in terms of access, it's critical in terms of economic development. And it appears from an engineering perspective that it is, as you lay out the best engineering alternatives from the perspective of safety and access and capacity, getting to the Goffstown Back Road is in fact the best alternative. The problem with that is even if they recommend it as the best alternative, it then goes to the next process or phase, which includes an environmental site assessment, and that alternative crosses Black Brook.
Yep.
So there's a larger environmental impact there than virtually any place else in this project. So we've been encouraged to ensure that if Goffstown is interested in the back road, we need to have dozens of people show up and explain why this is important. And if we don't have that, if it's the same 2, 3, 4 people, we're just not gonna have the impact that we need to have to get that moved forward as a priority. There is real support for that, I think, from the city of Manchester, because it opens up a lot of property, not just on Dunbar Road, but on the, what was the other road? I wanna say it's
Straw Road.
Straw Road.
For development in the city of Manchester. We don't have that type of access or capacity.
And the other one that was mentioned, I believe, Tony, was Hackett Hill. Did they mention Hackett Hill on that? And they
Hackett
mentioned
Hill definitely would
the
benefit
Hackett Hill Road section as well.
in that regard as well.
Yeah.
So when that final date comes out, I think it would be worth organizing people who know what they need to talk about to actually come out and say it and repeat it and say it again.
So you'll keep us up to date on that?
Yeah, as
Eric?
soon as we get a final date, I will let you know on that. That's all I had under old and new business. Under other business, Andy asked that I bring the zoning amendments this evening, which was a really good suggestion, and just kind of go over them, and then if there was any discussion or any concern from an economic development point of view. So you have, I printed them out, and what I did for each of them is redlined how the changes would be in there. The first is on commercial kennels. It's really meant as clarification. Previously, commercial kennels had to be on 2 acres, and it talked about no buildings or structures located within 100 feet to any lot line. It wasn't clear whether those were commercial kennel use or if somebody had a shed for their lawnmower, that kind of thing. So that's really just for clarification. The second change is a change to the home occupation, and it deletes a requirement that goods sold at retail should only be those manufactured or assembled on the premises. It opens up a little bit to some of the different online businesses that we've been seeing requests for. And let's see.
So currently, if I want, explain it, so currently, is it special permit that I have to get, or?
You have to register. So it's not a permit per se, but you register with the planning office.
And I can only sell things that I make at my house?
Assemble or manufacture.
So is what you're doing is you're striking that from the,
Yeah, the planning.
that's going away?
Yeah, planning board and has proposed that, and their recommendation is up above under. It was a split decision, but.
Now, but I'm going to be further limited by my zoning if I'm R1 or R2 or...
No, home occupations are pretty much allowed as an accessory use to a primary use of a residence in most of the dwelling throughout town.
Okay.
So that change. The next ones, as we move down into more economic development, this is a change in the commercial industrial flex zone, which again is along Mass Road and 114 coming in from Bedford. Currently, sale, rental of motor vehicles, boats, and trailers requires a special exception, which is an application through the zoning board. And this changes it from special exception, requiring zoning board action, to permitted, which is simply site plan review with the planning board. The next is in a similar vein, but the use is retail sale of gasoline. Would basically permit retail sale of gasoline by right in the commercial industrial flex zone, rather than special exception.
Wasn't there also like a distance clause in there? About
There was a distance clause of up to 2 miles. I believe it's 2 miles between.
So is that still there?
Yes, as far as I know. Yep, I've gone through this, and I know there was talk at one point about taking that out, but
Because I think when you give the distance right now, it'd be hard to do anything within that.
Within that and within the zones where it's allowed, yeah,
Yeah.
you would need a variance from that.
Yeah.
And then let's see, Article 6, just if a structure that's non-conforming is destroyed by fire or natural disaster, right now you have a year to rebuild in the same footprint. This would extend that to 2 years. Article 7 and 8 just expand on currently in the zoning ordinance. Businesses can put little A-frame signs out during business hours, and this just increases the size from 3 square feet to 6 square feet. Article 9 changes the requirements for electronic signs. Previously, you could have an electronic sign that changed content once every 24 hours with a conditional use permit through the planning board. This would allow electronic signs that content changed no more frequently than once every 15 seconds, and it would no longer require planning board action. So this would open up to more signs. There are some restrictions on internally lit signs when adjacent to residential, and those are still in there. But this
And the
would,
brightness and stuff like that, is there?
we do. We have a little bit under our light ordinance, which is Section 8. It does have a little bit, but that's really designed more for lighting and not as much for signage.
Is this to bring the police station into conformance? Well, I think that's a logical change.
They have been seeing quite a few requests for the LED signs, and I don't know whether or not the zoning board has gotten requests for changing more frequently, but I know that they have been getting more LED requests since they went over to conditional use permit. Five or 6 years ago, you couldn't do them at all. Well, I'm sorry, you could do date, time, and temperature.
Oh, I see.
And then the final one would be allowing as an accessory to a dwelling unit, raising and keeping of poultry in the R1 and R2 districts. And right now, it requires special exception through the zoning board. This is not recommended by planning board, but again, split vote. So.
I don't see anything there that really raises an eyebrow or is really offensive. Do you guys have any issue with anything there?
It's going to vote next week, so.
Yeah, I know. But I
But
just thought if there was any discussion on it.
I do wonder if in the future we should maybe look at this as part of our, to have input, you know, to say we support this also. I don't know if there's value in that. I would think Economic Development Council should be proactive and weigh in.
I agree.
It's definitely something we could do as part of the public hearing process at the planning board. And then once they have the ballot set, you could do it through some type of marketing, you know, whether it's letters to the editor or something afterwards. And the only other thing that I have is just I wanted to highlight 2 Manchester Chamber of Commerce events that are coming up in April. The first is on the 4th at the Institute of Politics, and that's a legislative dinner. And the focus is going to be on the Executive Council, kind of explaining what their role is and how it's changed over time. And then on the 10th is the State of the State with Governor Hassan and the State of the City of Manchester with Mayor Gatsis, and that's a breakfast on the 10th from 7:30 to 9 a.m. Those do require registrations, but we are members of the chamber, so we do get a discounted rate. So if anyone's interested in that, please let me know, and I'll make sure you get signed up. that's it.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, for next meeting, I will see if Jack Munn can present the Certified Sites program, so we can make a recommendation to the planning board before they go there. Have more on the EdSat item, and hopefully we'll be moving forward with, have a final answer from police, Parks and Rec, and Conservation on the Glen Lake waterfront.
You said next meeting date is the 3rd?
April 3rd.
Can I throw one more thing out under other? When we were going through this, I was thinking about the newsletter, and we haven't done that in a while.
We haven't.
And then Tony had mentioned, you know, the I-293, you know, almost like a call to action.
Yep.
You know, and that's what that newsletter was for, was a vehicle for us to communicate to a wider body what's happening, you know, with Pinardville or whoever, and,
Yep.
you know, and a call to action to be informed about 293. So, if I can help with the newsletter, I know
Okay.
what it's like to write newsletters. It's a chore all the time, but.
Yeah, no, we can definitely do that. And I think with Pinardville coming up, with the planning charrette, with
Yeah, we got a lot
a lot going on, so.
to put out there, and I know we have a pretty good database. We've been working hard to get that.
Yep.
So.
Absolutely. That's all I have, unless anyone else had anything else or any requests.
We're pretty much, I mean, from the Board of Selectmen's standpoint, we've kind of held off on acting on a few things, only to see what the budget is going to bring, whether we fall into the new budget or default budget. We haven't, like I said, we're kind of holding off until next week to see after. There's a couple issues we could have worked on or dealt with, but the board thought it was better that we just hold off and wait and see what we actually have for funds, money available before we start spending money a little bit prematurely, and we're just chugging along, waiting to see what happens. Hopefully the people this year, there's enough important things that need to be dealt with that we have a larger turnout of voting. We talked about that the other night. The people of Goffstown, please get out. We need to be, you know, we need to be supported. I know at the town deliberative session, the crowd wasn't very big. Hopefully for voting, there's enough information that went out in the flyers that people are going to come out and vote and show their support, whether it be for or against any articles. There's some very important articles that need to be voted on this year. You know, so next week, the 12th, hopefully people will come out and vote, and will be the majority instead of the minority when it comes time to having things done in the town, you know?
Well put. Tony?
I think I heard you have volunteered to write articles, and I don't think I've ever seen your newsletter. So if you are writing articles or can rework some of the old ones, putting them in the Goffstown News,
Yep.
which I do get and read all the time, might also help leverage the
Yep.
information. I'd love to be on your list for the newsletter, though.
It's been a while, but yeah. Resurrected. That's all I had.
That's it, I guess we're adjourned. We don't need
Yeah, we don't need
the
to.
official.
Great.